Hey friends, welcome back to the Gentle and Lowly Co podcast. I'm Addie Ott, your host, and today on the podcast, we are going to be recapping 2025, the gentle recap of last year. And if you are a new friend to the podcast, welcome. I'm so glad you are here. And if you are just excited the podcast is back, well, I'm excited too. And I'm so stoked to talk about last year. Honestly, the gentle recap of 2025. This is kind of a tag along to the weekly newsletter I send called the Gentle Recap, where I help you find a peaceful pause for your week. And so it's really inspired by that, as that email, it's just a gentle encouragement, and the Gentle and Lowly Co podcast exists to help you carry the gentle love of Jesus wherever you go. And I thought, what better way to kind of catch you guys up to speed and up to date about what God did last year, and just a little bit, behind the curtain about what God was doing in my heart and last year, and honestly, just where we're headed with the podcast and just with my life. And so this conversation I'm really excited about, and you might just be hopefully encouraged by just this slower start to the year. We're starting in March, bringing the podcast back, but we're talking about last year in March. And I think there's a lot of freedom with that, if I'm being honest, where God does not rush us. He walks with us. And so that's why I feel like it's so fitting, the gentle recap of 2025. So with that, this episode, it's going to look really different. There's no music of the week. There's no theme of the week. Realistically, we're just going to have a different recap of last year. And so with that, let's dive into the gentle recap of 2025. So 2025 was a defining year for me, if I'm being honest. It was a year of purpose, refinement, and growth. A lot of growth, I feel like, behind the scenes or just in quiet. And we're going to get into that and talk about that. And it was a year of living present, being available, and hopeful of God's plans and direction. As I was asking, what's next, God? What is next? Where are we going? Where are you headed? Where are you taking me? And so just to encourage you, friend, this episode, it's not a highlight reel, even though I'm so grateful for a lot of things I got to do last year and places I got to go. My brother got married in California, and then I got to go to Texas and see some friends, and North Carolina, and some other places too, I think. But all that to say, I'm really, really grateful for the life that God has given me to live, but also I want to encourage you that this conversation is really just a reflection of where God refined me, realigned, and deepened my faith, and just hopefully the encouragement that this tension we can feel in between seasons, that we can be reminded of the gospel hope, and God can fill us with his contentment, but he can just be present with us in this season. And also, if there's grief or sadness, or even pain and suffering, God will meet us in the middle of it, and we can hold both of those, or all of those things in attention while walking with him. So when I look back at last year, I don't just see events, even though things got filled in on my calendar, and I'm so grateful for those. I truly see moments where God gently formed me over this past year. So a few gentle moments that marked the year for me. Now, I feel like I've talked about this in the podcast, but if I haven't, or if you're a new friend here again, these are a few things that when I look back at last year, I was like, wow, that really set a trajectory for the year for me, and even ushered me into this new year of 2026. And so one of those things, it's almost two of those things, but it's in the theme of rest. And the first one is annual planning retreat and my first Summer Sabbath. And so we took an annual planning retreat. I did that alongside my mentors, and I took 3 or 4 days off work, and over the weekend too. So just pairing it with my work schedule and everything. And I just took time, took 4 days intentionally to get away. And I loved how my mentors encouraged me just to seek God's heart, just to listen to him, seek his word, seek his truth, and connect with him, worship him, pray, all of these things, but also get to reflect on the last year and to dream with him for the future, and not doing it backwards where I just want to do all the things and be like, okay, what am I supposed to do? We're truly, truly connecting with God and seeking his heart first. and then being able to dream with God for the first, for the next year to come. And then the Summer Sabbath, that was a really big thing for me to do. I felt this on my heart for a long time. And even though it's just me here at Gentle and Lowly Co., we're a small company, and I don't know if the team will ever get bigger than me. Whatever God wants to do, I am open to it. But at the same time, I wanted to make sure that these missional and foundational kind of values are ingrained or rooted since the beginning, just with me, because that's why I started a business, to be able to conduct it the way that God was leading me into. And so we did a first Summer Sabbath. We did a Summer Sabbath for the first time last year. And again, it was a lot of work. I talked about that a little bit in a couple episodes. And just this reminder, though, with both of those, the annual planning retreat and Summer Sabbath, just the reminder to rest in God's goodness. And he really realigned my time, where I placed my time and talent and treasure. And so all of those things, you have the gift of time and this talent, whatever God's equipped and encouraged you to do, and our treasure, the finances and the resources he's given us. Where does that need to go this year? That's the question I would leave you with. And just remembering your truer identity. Who does God say you are? Are you his daughter? Are you his son? You can rest in that. And it's not about what you do, friend. It really isn't. He delights in you. You think about Zephaniah 3:17. The Lord rejoices over you. He delights in you with loud singing. That's a paraphrase, but look it up. It is such a great verse. And it just shows God's love for you and for me. Number 2 was She Speaks. So I made the decision to attend this conference. I've known about it for I don't know how many years, but this was the year I really felt this nudge from God to be like, Addie, you're gonna go, you're gonna do it. Go ahead and do it for this year. And I did it, and I went alone, went by myself, but found a roommate, someone to share a room with. And I'm so grateful that I said yes. And even though traveling by myself, I have a gift to be able to say, yeah, I'm going to go a month before and just make the plans. Right. And so being able to steward my time in that way in the season, and honestly, choosing to continue to walk out my faith, even when it's uncomfortable, that's what God will continuously call us to do. And so the encouragement in that is I found community in the obedience of saying yes to this conference. And it lit me up in a different way that I have never experienced before, in just a different way where I was like, wow, how encouraging it is to be in a room full of women of all different kinds of ages and different seasons, but we all feel called to proclaim the gospel in different ways. And so I'm so grateful for those friendships and honestly ministry partnerships that have been kind of forged in that in-person time. And so just shout out to my prayer team, all the women on that from She Speaks. You know who you are. I'm so grateful for each one of them. And it's so encouraging to find community. People who get it, we're trying to build kind of the same things or steward the same things, just for the glory of God. And how do we do this well? I think that's the question we're all asking. How do we do this well? And how we do it well is by leaning on one another and by leaning on God. Number 3 is serving in community. And so in kind of October, November, if there's this little bit of a shift, and that's when the podcast kind of went away for a few months, disappeared. And in that time, that season, I just felt the Lord shifting my heart and just reminding me of Addie, and calling me, if I'm being honest, to be like, hey, where are you serving? Where are you stewarding your time and investing in it? Not that the podcast isn't a way that I serve. It absolutely is a way that I serve. But how am I actually meeting people where they're at? And God just provided some opportunities to volunteer at different concerts. Anyone can volunteer. And I was like, okay, let's do that. Volunteer at some conferences or concerts. And I don't know, if I really truly thought about the impact that was going to have on me. When I signed up, I was like, oh no, I'm just going to volunteer. This sounds like a great opportunity just to have fun, but also to serve and to make some friends. But realistically, just to do something that I know I can do and I have the availability to do. And maybe I'll get to hear some music, or I'll get to talk to some people, and it should be a great time. but I don't think I would have been able to tell you how impactful those evenings were to me and how it really kind of changed the rest of the year. And it was only a couple more months of the year, but it truly did, because I got to see ministry again in a different lens of just being able to be available. And I think that is a huge theme from 2025, that when I look back at my year, it's just reinforcing this of like, are you available for me? Like, available for God to move and work however he wants to. That's something that he kept reminding me of, and to serve people wherever they are. And so it was so incredible. I think I made a post about one of the concerts I volunteered at, and I got to run into a couple people, from when I was just growing up, and it was incredible. Like, what are the odds? Not a coincidence, only the Lord. And so I was so encouraged, just by the way that service brings you closer to Jesus, because I'm just reminded of how he served and he laid down his life for me and for you and for each one of us. So that's kind of the long story there. But just really, when it comes down to it, it comes down to faithfulness in the small places, the places where there's no visibility. And that's not the point. The visibility isn't the point. It is to be faithful in the ordinary, in the mundane, and just in the small places where, I'll open the door, or I'll take out that trash. Where are you serving? Where are you showing up and being faithful, and whatever he calls you to? And so just continued obedience to his voice, whatever that looks like for you, friend. Like, I'm still always going to continue to learn that. What does obedience look like to follow Jesus and to take him seriously at his word? And so one of those things is also tying into this, to share my testimony in different podcasts, or to go speak at a church, or different things. And I just want to do it because I just want to be faithful. I just want to share what God's done in my life. And so those things, I feel like it's all this like linear kind of path of succession where, okay, Tendentry speaks. Okay, I have some tools and things and some equipping and some homework to do. And so I did that, got some systems in place. And I kind of thought it was maybe a waste to do it. And I was like, well, nothing's happening with them. No emails, the inbox is empty, nothing's happening. And I got really discouraged, if I'm being honest. But then in November, I got an inquiry to come and just share at a women's banquet and to be the guest speaker. And so I'm still learning how to do this in real time. And so that's very transparent, but I am so excited for God just opening a door, and I don't want to not praise him for it. Like, that's an incredible praise, an incredible opportunity that he provided. And so I just want to give him all the glory for that, of just being able to see how he's always working and moving, even when we don't see him working. So the encouragement really, from these gentle moments that marked the year, is just the reminder for you and I, friend, both, is that God's faithfulness, it isn't loud, it is steady, and it is steadfast, always. So we're going to go a little bit deeper into what grew, what changed, and also what I let go of. Now, again, a little bit deeper, but realistically, these are the things, and hopefully like the questions you can be asking the Lord yourself too. And just to share a little bit more of, hey, what happened over these months in the podcast wasn't here. So what grew, what grew behind the scenes really. And this is exactly really what this whole conversation is about, is faith planted in hiddenness. I live in the country. Like, I walk outside in the woods, and I feel like you're really hidden out here. There's not a ton of people out here. I have neighbors, of course, and everything, but it feels like a very quiet season. There's not a lot of traffic, not a lot of noise. It's very simple. And there are parts of me that love that. And then there's parts of me that I'm like, I gotta get to a city and be around some people, or just go to a coffee shop even. But what I've learned from that, of like what grew me in that, is just this idea of continuing to create from an overflow. I don't know how many times I've said that in a podcast conversation with a friend, or just even at coffee with a friend, where I genuinely want to create from this place of an overflow. And as I look out my window and as I go outside to the fields, like, I see the seasons and how God uses every season, and how he's shaping the soil, and things grow, and the corn grows, and the pumpkins grow, and then it goes away, and then the snow comes, and the rain, and the winter, all those things. But I see the fruit from it and even the pruning from that. And so just the encouragement of bold prayers and bold asks in those hidden seasons and in those prayer walks with the Lord and with my dog, Kodak. He hears you, friend. He hears you. So that is definitely what grew, is some faith planted in hiddenness. So rest became a priority and a gift. Now, after having that annual planning retreat, then there are these things called PRDs, prayer and reflection days. And so like the last Saturday of every month, like that became a priority, but also a gift, because I rediscovered or just remembered, God remembered and it reignited my heart of just what a gift it is to seek Him first, and just to be able to like really just draw away with Him every month. Like that's the gift. That is really the gift. And then kind of transitioning into that, like from that overflow, then really redefining success, where it became about presence of just like being with God and being with people, being present, but also this availability. Like, am I holding my hands open to be available with the Lord? So this season of hiddenness, or being in a quiet season or slower season, or just a season you didn't think you'd still be in. Sometimes we can look at it as a different way, maybe not the most content lens. And the Lord just reminded me and kind of redirected my heart of just the beautiful gift it is of being in a hidden season, where you just get to walk with Him. And if we're walking with Him, we will hear His voice clearly, and we will be in the center of His will for our lives, just like the next right thing, one step in front of the other. So what did I let go of? There are things each year that shape us and form us, and there are some things I'm like, yeah, we need to like let go of this thing. What did the Lord really prune me of? And I think this will make sense as I pause the podcast temporarily. It's just this pressure to do it all. We can't do it all. Realistically, we can't. And I am just the only one who does all of these things with a day job. And so I can't do everything. And the Lord just needed me to rest in that, of like, yeah, we're going to leave that behind, and it's okay, Addie. Like, it's okay. And so even just this fear that like you may be holding on to, that I can get in my head about, where the fear of like, if I stop, then it equals failure. And so just like, if the Lord's asking you to loosen your grip on those things and to just hand it over to Him, then what does that actually look like? And even loosening my grip on the future. I don't know what the future holds for my life. I am seeking the Lord in that. I'm trying to be faithful and to walk in obedience to what He is calling me to do. And if He opens this door, okay, let's walk through it. And if it's not the right thing, He'll redirect me. Like, He is so faithful to tell me no, or to tell me yes, or tell me where to go and what to do. And so there are dreams and things I would love to do in my future. And at the same time, like, I am in this season, and I don't want to say, oh, you're in a season for a reason, but maybe what does God want to accomplish in this season? So just surrendering my future over to the Lord, honestly. All of these point back to the safest place we can be is the center of God's will, which is being able to know and hear His voice daily. So a little bit behind the scenes of last year, where the Lord just grew me in contentment in Christ alone, instead of striving, whether that be for career or whatever success might look like to our world, or even, seeking and striving for a relationship status. And like, we've talked about singleness or being single last year in the podcast, and even just like the aspiration of being married. And it's like, are we pursuing it for the right reasons? On my best days, yes. And on my worst days, no. And so I think that is a continual thing, like, to bring to the Lord, but to not make it your whole identity. I think that's one of the bigger things and lessons that I'm just being reminded of. So a few things that were harder than expected, that you're not going to see these online anywhere else, probably than here, unless the Lord's like, Addie, you need to share this. But I'm sharing it here because you guys are part of my community of Gentle and Lowly Co. And I just want to be honest that, last year had really for the past 2 years, realistically, I've had some physical health challenges, some kind of random things just happen and pop up. And I thought it would go away by now, but the fact that it hasn't gone away and it's taken more stress and like a physical toll on me, like, and it's just unknown of when it's going to happen. And I know I'm kind of being vague, but probably the reasoning for why maybe the inconsistent publishing schedule, or why just the podcast kind of fell off the face of the earth in October and last year and the beginning of this year. There have just been some limitations where I physically cannot edit, and I am in a ton of pain. And so I share that with you just to be a little more transparent. But also asking that you would pray for me, because it's been extremely difficult on those days. And I'm really grateful for the community that God has surrounded me with, to invite them into this process with me. But I've been in a lot of pain, and sometimes you can't see it or you wouldn't be able to tell. And it's not an excuse, but I really want to serve well, and so I'm trying to figure out what this means for me just in my future and going forward, and how can I be a better and more faithful steward just of this body that God has given me. And so that's a whole nother conversation for probably a different time, but that's where I am, and I'll update it if needed. And there's just some, of course, things behind the scenes that we all have unmet expectations, maybe what this year is going to look like, or we would maybe have this milestone by here or that, or, this or that. And sometimes it doesn't happen. But I think the encouragement is that even in some of these health challenges, unmet expectations, like God has met me, and he will continue meeting me, but he met me last year and in this year too, of course, but God met me in total trust and quiet surrender. And what I mean by that is just being able to openly trust the Lord about where I'm at, and with my questions and with my concerns and worries and fears, like all the things, right? Not holding it back. It led me to this place of just, okay, Lord, like, my life is yours. Do with it what you want to. Like, that is honestly the place, I'd say, where the Lord led me to. It's just this quiet surrender of like, okay, what are we gonna do? Like, what actually, not what are we gonna do, but like, what actually is the gift, right? Like, this is the gift. Walking daily with Jesus in the ordinary and the slow. That is the greatest gift, to be known intimately by God. So there's a couple gentle lessons I want to leave you with of 2025, and they're going to shape this next year and even kind of bring some clarity of what we're doing on the podcast, even as we continue into this year. So the lessons of 2025 are this: every season has a purpose. And being present is the gift. If rest is a gift, then let's protect it. And so, friends, like, I would encourage you, if this episode was encouraging to you, I'd seriously encourage you to thank the Lord, thank God for what was last year. Even though it's March, like, you're not too late, like, you can continue to reflect. And I think that's really encouraging to be like in this, I don't know, like, it's not even like a mid-new year mindset, but like, now that some of the dust has settled from January, from February, and from last year, like from November, December, I feel like there's a different kind of clarity. Maybe we can look at the last year, 2025, and really see, like, what did God do, and where we can thank the Lord for what was, thank him for also what's ahead, and stay close to his voice. So my prayer is that, like, this conversation was just like a really great break from a lot of the noise, and also just like a really great catch up where you're like, oh, okay, like there's a lot of stuff going on in all of our lives. And so maybe just like ask a friend to get coffee with you or get together. You haven't seen them since last year, and you're like, let's just catch up. Here's just like what's actually happening in my life and where I think the Lord is leading me to go. I've been so encouraged by doing that. And just being like, hey, this has been really hard in my life right now. Would you partner in prayer with me? Or this has been really good. Would you celebrate with me of like what God is doing? And I just don't want to miss what he has for this year. And I think a lot of times, I don't even know if I really reflected on 2024, if I'm honest, like in 2025. And so that was something that really stuck with me, where I was like, oh, I really don't want to miss what he did and also what he's doing. And we have to know where we're going. We have to know where we just came from. And so take this week or maybe an hour on your lunch break or just the weekend, part of the weekend, like whatever it is, maybe just your drive, like after, if maybe you have like 10 more minutes after this, you get home, just like pause and just pray. Just ask the Lord, like, what did you do last year in me? And where are you headed? And just ask him to speak. That's honestly what I would encourage you to do. But if you're really curious, you're like, oh, I really want to like do some of these things you talked about, Addie, like whatever an annual planning retreat is, or PRD, prayer and reflection day, or Summer Sabbath, like, you know, my email inbox is always open. I love talking about these things. It's more like the strategy side of it, but I'm so grateful that people sat down with me to give me some of these tools, especially as a young adult. And I'm serious. You can always send me an email at hello@gentlenowly.co. Be in the show notes and also on this video. And I'd love to chat more over there with you. So let me know how you guys like this conversation. If you want more of these in the future, this is just what was on my heart, and maybe we'll make it an annual thing where we just kind of recap each year so you know where the Lord is taking me and hopefully where the Lord is saying the podcast, but hopefully like you get to reflect on the last year and know where God is directing and leading you, friend. That is really my heart and prayer for this conversation. But just also a heads up, I'll probably be on social media, but the podcast is going to bi-weekly episodes, and so I won't see you guys next week, but I'll see you guys the week after that, and we'll have a couple pre-recorded episodes I didn't get to release last year just due to some of those things and just some timing of just when I felt like God was leading me into this pause. And so we'll have some of those, but we'll also have some new episodes sprinkled in there in between. It will be every other week for our publishing schedule, but still on Tuesdays. And as always, until next time, continue to carry the gentle love of Jesus wherever you go.